When you start up, you might start up with one or two friends that you know, or people that you know, with money that from folks that you know. As you scale, that factor of being ruthless in your decision making, sometimes people are not carrying it. You need different people to come into the picture. Now, how do you decide that? I know part of it is your own character, possibly, and your own upbringing, perhaps, but how do you decide between friendship and the bonds that you've built versus the future of a business which you think will grow without the friends?
Well, I think that's a difficult question, but the chemistry must be right so you can work as a team and cohesively, and they all must be very committed. It must not be a fancy that goes away after a short while. And sometimes I find, like in marriage, if you can travel with your partner, you can find out a lot more about the partner. And after 5 days together, you realize whether you can make a life together or you can't. Same with the team, you've got to work with them and day in, day out, and see what the commitment is like and what the drive is like, and whether they can function as a team, how committed they are, and whether they are selfish or they are team players. That's very key.
I think the one way to avoid problems later down the road is to have the hard conversations up front. So especially with co-founders at the beginning, like for marriage, you need to discuss whether there should be a prenup or not. And my recommendation to every founder is that you should have a prenup, and that the prenup for a startup is called vesting schedule. So let's say you have two co-founders, and let's say you go for 50-50, which I don't recommend, but which is a very common case. There needs to be an agreement up front that if for whatever reason, one of the co-founders decides to leave in the first 12 or 24 months of the venture, the equity that this founder owns, 50%, is going to go back to the remaining founder. If you don't set up that type of vesting schedule up front, you basically make your company non-fundable later down the road, because founder divorce happens more often than we'd like to admit. And when no vesting setup has been structured, basically the company is non-manageable. And I've seen companies having to shut down because they did not have those hard conversations up front. They did not do the prenup. They did not set up a proper vesting structure, and therefore the company had to go down.
I went through a lot of these problems in my earlier startups. So in my more recent startups, what I have implemented is from day one, before you even set up the company, before you raise money, before you even hire people, I always set up a set of guiding principles. We forget, companies, Singapore, everywhere, there's this thing called a constitution of a company. We set up certain rules that all officers, everybody in the company is supposed to abide by. We think that there's some legal jargon or what have you. And sure it is, right? Over time it's evolved into something very slick. But a startup is a fast-moving company that innovates, that evolves. But there should be some rock-solid principles that are set up in the beginning that everybody should follow. It can change, it can evolve as well, even the principles. But they must have a reason to evolve. We all know, we all understand that companies are by virtue of the fact authoritarian. Companies is a dictatorship, right? Shareholders control it, the board controls it. One guy on top, biggest shareholder, CEO, where he controls whatever he says goes. Right? At the end of the day. Now you can talk about checks and balances and whatever, but to me, the real authentic success of a company is led by guiding principles that set up by the first group of people. It can be one of the co-founders that have you, and evolve such that everybody who joins the team agrees somewhat or rather to follow these guiding sets of principles. Now, if somebody falls along the wayside, and it could be picking up pace, it doesn't matter whether you're CEO or you are the janitor. If you can't keep up based on these principles, then it's not me firing you, it's not me asking you to leave. It's because for some reason you can't keep up to what we have agreed that we should all do together. So it's not personal anymore, right? It's about the mission.